Welcome to Trauma and Transcendence, where healing meets awakening. I'm Amanda M. Dodd, your guide on this transformative journey. Thank you for joining me on this episode. Let's transcend together. Hello, soulful seekers. Welcome back to Trauma and Transcendence, and I've got a brand new guest for you. This is going to be a stellar conversation. I have paranormal investigator here with me, Patrick Gormley. Thank you for coming today. Please let us know all about you.
Thanks for having me, Amanda. I am over the moon, happy to be able to converse with you today and all your listeners. But I am Thomas Patrick Gormley. I am referred to as the Archangel of the Paranormal. I am also with a promotions events group called the Shaman and the Shaman. I'm the shaman of it, as you could see why I'm on your show. And I am also a former law enforcement officer, criminal profiler, and I do true crime also. But mostly I've been doing paranormal since I was very young. I started with Ed and Lorraine Warren. I learned to use my empathic abilities over the years to be able to help the living and the dead heal.
So when you started at such a young age, how did it begin to emerge for you? What were the first few things that started happening that you can recall?
I think more as you're young, you don't realize your feelings. As I was getting older, I wonder how I walked into a room and just my feelings would change. There'd be anger, there'd be emotion and all. I didn't know what it was. I just thought, oh, I'm going through my teenage years. You know, your parents keep telling you, oh, yeah, you're just going through your changes and all that. And no, it just always felt different. And meeting Lorraine helped me realize she recognized it immediately and just put a name to it. And, you know, went from there to be able to develop that and why I was the way I was and not to be afraid of it.
What an opportunity. I am just skimming the surface with Lorraine and her husband. They're relatively new to me. I only recently saw a series, I want to say that it was on Netflix, and it was the whole trying to prove their theory of the circulus nature of a haunting or of a place and how like there's a certain amount of time until the whole thing will kind of loop. That was fascinating. But for my audience who maybe doesn't know so much about them, what could you share?
Well, Ed and Lorraine, way back in the day when they married, Lorraine had been a clairvoyant her whole life. She would see auras, so she saw it ever since she was young. And Ed grew up in a haunted house, all both here in Connecticut. And when they met, he went off. He was in the military, came back, they married. But Ed was an artist, so how they would start was they'd see a house and Lorraine would pick up on it, and Ed would paint a picture, and they'd go offer the picture to the people at the house if they let him take a look. And it just kind of grew from there. And as cases went, um, had some of the most famous cases, but I mean, they're talking about years in the paranormal. I think a lot of people don't realize without them, I don't think, Amanda, you and I would be having this conversation right now. So those are the people that came before us, to have respect for them. Were they always right? No, but nobody is. It's the paranormal. It's how we feel. It's our emotions. If we knew exactly how to control our emotions, then we'd be able to turn it on or off, which is impossible, And what they did, yes, you're never 100% right or wrong about the paranormal. It's the chase, it's the learning. For people to point fingers at each other, I just don't think it's a healing thing. We could all learn from each other, and that's why I look back on that and what people say about them now. It upsets me because that's not the way to do it.
Yeah, I really appreciate that kind of insider take because it's hard to know when you're newer in the field, kind of like me, and you're just hearing second and third people's accounts. And so I really didn't have an impression of it for myself. And absolutely, they're pioneers. And that's the thing about pioneering. They were willing to be open and explore and allow things to kind of unfold naturally and organically. And you really have no say. And just because not everything could be proven doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong either.
Mm.
If mediumship has taught me anything, it's that even those moments where I self-doubt in a reading, you never know, that client may come back in 6 months or a year and say, oh, I finally got this last piece. It
Yeah.
was meant to happen at a certain time or needed to hear from a family member.
Yeah. Yeah, you never know when you give message, because in the spirit world, I feel they don't have the same time as us. We would look at our watches, hey, what time is it? They don't have that. So if they give you a message, it may not be on our time. It may be at another date. It may have been something from the past. A lot of times you hope it's from the past because people could validate it right there and then, or what's going on now. But some of the future stuff, you can't validate it till it happens. And the reason being is it goes away from their mind until it happens because it's important. You don't want to mess with somebody's trajectory in life.
Yeah.
Sometimes the message is kind of clouded until it happens. So that's a good thing that the spirit world does for us too.
Yeah. So there you were with your empathy, and you touched on something that I really enjoyed, because that was also part of my experience too, was the emotionality of being an empath and not understanding that, oh, this is coming from outside, not within. So for me, you figured it out way faster. I was
I had a little help.
I was mid-20s to late 20s before I even learned to get my license or drive, because it was that intense for me that I was distracted. I felt emotionally dysregulated, and I could never figure out why. It took me
Yeah.
that long. So I loved that you touched on that piece, because I think that's a big one for a lot of people.
It is, especially nowadays where a lot of this more is open and we see it a lot more. But even way back when kids felt this way or they saw their imaginary friend or those things like that, they would be getting institutionalized or sent to the hospital and all that. People didn't look that people are spiritually gifted and it's not a psychosis or anything like that. But it does have to do with how we deal with trauma too. We're more open to it. I think a lot of us that are sensitive have gone through a lot of trauma and recognize it and put it to use with that recognition to be able to help other people.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
That trauma can open the abilities, can start a whole spiritual awakening and spiritual healing crisis, and all of it can arrive as a result
Mm-hmm.
of. And it's so important to, after you get the nervous system regulated, to come
Mm-hmm.
back and say, oh, now I can actually use these abilities for something concise and constructive.
Yeah. But it is, you're exactly right. People always want to look at things scientifically and all that. And I don't blame them, but me with my background in psychology and all that, and just looking at the mind, you have to look at it this way. When we're born, between the ages of 1 and 7, we are in what's called theta wave. That's that wave you feel like you're about to fall asleep, you're about to wake up. And that's why a lot of people tune in, your alpha, your theta. But as you're in that, as a kid, that's why most kids see the imaginary friend, they see past relatives and all that. So that's important that they could keep developing that. It never goes off, but it gets turned off by what's called critical thinking, which starts kicking in at about the age of 7. That's when mom and dad say, hey, you're just seeing something. And then you start thinking, well, maybe I am. And you shut it off. The next time it naturally hits you is on your deathbed. A lot of hospice nurses will say the people are seeing their relatives come to, bring them to the next plane, wherever that is. So that's what will occur too. Now, during life, if you shut it off, it could turn back on when a lot of people I've talked to say they become clairvoyant. They're able to see things after a traumatic near-death experience, a bad accident, somebody very important to them died in their life and all that they weren't able to overcome. And those things trigger it back and they recognize that it's there and they start developing them because they do recognize it. It's always there. It just takes a certain situation, either, mentally or physically, for it to come back.
On this channel, we call it a catalyst.
Yeah, exactly. So that is a good word for it. So.
So after you met Lorraine, what happened then?
So I was with them until I hit college. I would go visit the house a lot and all, and never investigated with them. I just think I was so young at the time, but I would go usually on Halloween. They used to have they would have a party where people would come and they would show the good stuff that they didn't show on their touring and all that. So you'd see more of the exorcisms that they took part in, things like that. So you really learn then. I learned then. Now there's certain things you don't want to mess with, and how to discern and things like that, and how to use my empathic abilities, how to keep myself protected, how to protect others, and all that. So I went with that. But myself in the paranormal, I had my ups and downs. I went off to college and all that. There was always stuff going on. I went to a college that was pretty old. Some of the buildings there where people live were part of the Underground Railroad. And, I'd go into the dorms and I'd do my thing, but I really didn't say anything to anybody at the time because they would think I was completely crazy because it wasn't the in thing at the time. But it was always under the table. And, you know, I moved down to Florida and started working for the Department of Corrections down there. And, everything just kept growing. Things kept knocking on the door, telling me I'm not doing what I need to do. Um, Sometimes it was to the point where, you're working at a job, you leave that job, you lose that job, and it's like, what am I meant to do? And it was always knocking on the door. The spirit guides were always knocking on the door and wouldn't let up. I was always part of it, but I didn't realize that there was more for me until my mom passed in 2012. That's when I finally gave in and realized that, hey, you are a healer for the living and the dead. That's why every job you've had has prepared you. In this world, in the spiritual world, we've been knocking on the door. Wake up, my friend, doing the old McFly, wake up, McFly. And
Yeah.
so I laugh about it now, but, I went through a lot of darkness. And I think when you do that, you have to go through darkness to see the light. I am part of a healing group that basically looks into that. And I think you can't get to the light unless you've been through the dark. That's what we've been talking about. Even when we come into this world, we come out of our mother's womb in the darkness into the light of this world to live our agreed life. And that's part of it too. But, after that, I really got more heavily into it. A lot of the people I hadn't seen in a while, we all get back in touch, and it just seems like everybody I meet in the paranormal world now or the healing world now, I feel that connection, like we've had lifetimes before, and that we're here to help the best that we can, the living and the dead, how they accept it. I do help with spirit make the decision to decide if they want to move along or not. I sit there with them and let them tell their story, see what their trauma is, trying to help them see that trauma doesn't have to hold them back anymore if they make that decision. Give them the opportunity on how to pass. A lot of people say, hey, go to the light. It's not really that. A lot of times when you are having here in life, when you're not feeling well about something, what do you usually do? You try and find that happy song, that happy time you picture, like laying in a field of daisies or something. So when you find out that spirit you're communicating with, what their happy place was, you have them picture it. And once they picture it, that's the light. That's what helps them move. That helps them get out of that trauma. So it's the same thing. Our shells, as a spirit world, our shells just gone. We have shells here and all that. And so we have the same feeling, the same consciousness that we believe stays. And that's how we deal with it. So sometimes the living's harder to deal with than the dead. The dead are a little more open with their stories, and because they've transitioned. So that transition part's gone. That's what holds up a lot of people to heal that fear. So once you're gone, the fear is gone, but sometimes the trauma is still there that we have to deal with.
Yeah. Some of my own experiences that I can draw on, very similar to you in that I didn't really seek this life. If anything, I tried to full out avoid it until my early 30s. I ran as hard and as far as I could. And always there would be something to bring me back to it. And so when I'm training the mediums that I help develop, one of the things I tell them is it's a journey. This is a development journey. There is no destination. You're going to wax with it. You're going to wane with it. It is a part of our body, our physiology. And so if the body's needing to heal, guess what? That's not time to play with your mediumship ability.
Yeah.
It is going to be on the back line because your body's focused on survival.
Yeah.
And so I heard that we had that in common, and that was, yeah, that resonates very, very deeply. I've lived in a lot of haunted places as well. One of those things that you do unconsciously, that's part of the training. And so I did encounter quite a few that needed help moving on. And they get locked into the vibration of shame. They get locked into self-blaming, into guilt. And we're so vibrational, whether we've got the meat suit or not.
Yeah.
And that really is the difference. I didn't think about calling them to their happy place, but I have used their loved ones. I have used angels, archangels. That's always been helpful. Yeah. I love that.
That's one of the big reasons why I've gotten the moniker over the years. It was given to me, the Archangel of the Paranormal, because of what I do. You know, it's to the point. It's that relationship with the spirit world, and many of the people, like Greg, will tell you. And when I'm present, or even when I'm not present, if people that I know are present at an investigation, and they turn on an ITC device, which is they're able to hear in question, you know, the living and the dead are able to communicate. And every time you put those machines on, if I'm present, I know my spirit guides let the spirits that need help know, just call his name and he will help you. And that's my indication to my spirit guides. And then the people around are listening. They hear Thomas, Thomas over and over again. And I know it's time to sit and communicate. And there's been several times I've had friends call. They said somebody was calling Thomas, but there was no connection to the home. And I says, well, maybe next time I'll come out with you. I think it's reaching out, you know, things like that. We were watching. I was part of a TV show with Greg, and his episode was on, and they were listening on the device, and my name came through.
I didn't catch it. I
And
just
they
watched that episode. It was so good.
And they didn't even catch it. And it's like, I go back because it was the host and some other guy there. Greg wasn't part of it, and they were listening to the devices. And just before, maybe a little bit before, they said, oh, it said Steven, and they're trying to connect it to one of the other mediums. But you hear my name twice. So, and it's like, I've been connected to the show. Whether I'm not on the cutting room floor or not, who knows? But, you know, seeing Greg being there, and Greg and I have a spiritual attachment to each other. We've known each other in past lives, I believe. And I think that's why I was calling, because it knows this guy could get him and we could communicate. And, you know, that's the theory, you know, you never know. But when I hear my name, I know somebody needs help. That's how my spirit guides communicate to the spirits to talk to me.
So you started out with the empathy, and then you kind of deepened into psychopomp work where you're helping souls trance and pass over.
Yeah.
And then it led into paranormal investigating. Was that the order?
No, it was more of the empath into the paranormal investigating. And then a lot of my abilities, well, that was a good one.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
She's got a favorite bone. We always hear it.
Gotta love the dogs. So, you know, I'm going through the paranormal, and as you're around like-minded people, it's almost like they pass along those skills and you develop them and keep developing and developing. I think, you know, when you're around other mediums or you're around other shamans like myself, you know, and it's just transfers to each other. You guys bring each other's vibration up, and
we boost each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You level
work
up
in unison. Yeah.
Exactly. And you level up, and then you're able to help even more people. It's like you're all helping each other. And that's why it's important that we have shows like this, so people could see, you know, the camaraderie, I'll say something that you may never heard. It might help you in your own practice. Um, it's recognizing that we do this without ego. Um, with ego, I think you'll get further away from spirit, and we won't be able to do what our mission is to help the living and the dead.
Yeah, definitely it clouds the vision, and they're coming in with filters, and it's just like a good reader. If you have no ego, man, those readings come through clear. You don't have to worry about any of the thinking filters getting in the way. And it's just energetic. It's just another layer of vibration, or whatever we want to call it, whether it's ego or other things or wounds that they haven't yet healed.
Yeah.
My goodness, you guys. So within the Archangel of the Paranormal, what all does that entail? What do people call you for?
Sometimes it's most of my time. I don't do them anymore. I just recently stopped about a year, a little less than a year ago. I'm more busy with teaching people now, but I would do home cases where I'm trying to figure out by the history, sitting with the people that own the home to go through. A lot of people have like all these questions to ask them. Mine are just in my head. I know what to ask to see, all right, is there something that they have to be medically treated for, or is there something actually going on as I talk to them? And then I'm able to go through the home and see if there's any spirits there where we could communicate, whether they want to be there or not, and how to help the people take back their home. It's not something I can't live with them and help them. I train them on how to interact with the spirit world, and it's up to them to be able to, live in that house or move. It's a matter of communication, like we're talking right now. A lot of people find it weird to just talk out into the nothingness that they see, but they're listening. Whether you're making renovations on a house or anything like that, some of these spirits still think they're around and you're messing with their house, and they get angry just like anybody else. And like we talked about before, people do the wrong things. You come in, you need to be respectful of the spirits there. Even if the family there now wants them out, you have to figure out why they're still there first. You can't go out and say, hey, get out. I'm going to get upset about that too. It's like what some of these people do, they provoke. If you walked into a bar and you say, hey, come out, who wants to talk to me now? Some drunk at that bar is going to want to fight you. It's the same thing. People got to realize that if you come in angry at somebody, they're going to match you with anger or even worse. I've seen some things in my career that make no sense. People getting pushed and people falling downstairs from getting pushed, and some pretty crazy things just out of nowhere. I've been pushed, I've been scratched, I've been touched, you name it. But a lot of times people misinterpret some of that. Especially for me, I always go into a home with the right intention, the good intention. When things touch me or they scratch me or something, I really look at it as most of the time it's not an angry spirit, it's a desperate spirit. I've had cases where people were getting scratched and they thought it was a demon, and you go in there and you find out it's just a guy desperate spirit, desperate to get his story out. And that story, he's desperate, and he feels that the person that lived there that I had to deal with was open to the spirit world, didn't realize it. You become a beacon of light, and they're trying to get your attention, and you don't know, and all of a sudden you're getting scratched or touched and all that, and you just think it's the worst, and it's not. Somebody wants to tell their story, sit there and listen, open up. And several cases like that where what people think it is, it's not. That's why it's important to discern, because you could go in with the right intention and not pick up what it actually is and just make things worse. So that's why it's very important to get your history. It's very important to take many different angles at a home case. So, because if you don't, you could cause more harm than good.
I really like that you take that historical approach as well. One of my favorite shows is actually The Dead Files.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole reason I love it is because they've got those two different perspectives coming
Mm-hmm.
in. One is the retired investigator, and then the other is medium.
Yeah, I'm
I
actually
have
both.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do both.
Yeah.
So,
See, I
yeah.
only see it from the mediumship side. I don't have
Yeah.
any investigative skills whatsoever, but I
Mm-hmm.
am intrigued. I do home clearings, but I've
Mm-hmm.
been very fortunate. And then again, my energy and intention is very clear and very soft and gentle. And so they immediately know that. And sometimes I will work on a space before physically going there. I will
Mm-hmm.
pray and meditate on it and do Ho'oponopono. It's one of my favorite modalities to use for
Nice.
clearing. And Reiki, of course, too, has its uses within mediumship. But for the actual physical investigation, I never know. So when I did do a clearing not long ago, the person didn't tell me that they were on the Underground Railway, and I didn't know because I'm Canadian. So I've only been in the States for a little while, and I've just become a citizen. So its histories are a little bit
Yeah.
foreign to me still. So to go into a place and then to all of a sudden feel it, she's like wanting me to go into her basement, and this basement had no light. It was dank. The
Mm-hmm.
fear that came off it, I'm like, sure, but you open the door first. You're not locking
Yeah.
me in here.
Yeah.
That was my immediate. This is not how my story ends today.
Yeah. That's the other
Yeah,
problem
you
with
go
home
ahead and open that
cases.
door.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I sometimes I go in and I do it alone.
Yeah.
So it was just me and this homeowner, and it's like, okay, I don't know you that well. And there I am. And all of a sudden, I can see them coming through the wall. I can see the lanterns. I can see like the material bags that they're holding. I can feel the fear, the oppression. And I'm like, what on earth? And there were so many of them, like as far as I could see. And I'm like, they just keep coming. And I was like, what is this? And then I heard Underground Railroad, and I'm like, is this attached to the Underground Railroad? And she's like, yeah, I wanted to see if you get it. And it's like, oh, gee, thanks.
Yeah.
Well, that was a lesson for both of us. But how would you investigate something like that in terms
Well,
of the full perspective?
well, a lot of it is everybody does things differently. Some mediums don't want to know. I'm an
I
empath.
prefer not to. Yeah.
No, for me, it comes and goes for me on your aspect of it. I'm not one that's going to sit in front of somebody and be able to do mediumship or anything like that, unless it's something very powerful and needed. I think things will reach out to me when
Mm.
the message is very powerful. It's not something I could
I
just
think it's
sit and
there for
do.
you. I can
Yeah,
see it in you. I think it's there for you.
yeah,
If you were to open to intention, I bet you can.
yeah.
Mhm.
That's what everybody says.
Yeah.
But right now, my purpose, I think more with the living I do. Sometimes I forget my boundaries with the living and all that. It's like I
Mhm.
want to help everybody. I want to say yes to everybody, and then I forget my own self care. But with the dead and all that, with the communication, I think is probably one of the most important. And just dealing with that on a daily basis is tough. I could be sitting right here. I'm sitting talking with you. Things could happen. Even over the weekend, I was talking to another friend of mine right in the middle of a hotel banquet hall, and we watched a shadow figure like go
Mm.
right by us. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, here I am. It could happen anywhere. Um, what I see, nobody else sees sometimes, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's something that you go through in life and all that, and I want to help people with that so they don't fear it. I think fear is what it changes our proper journey.
Yeah.
It's that whole thing. You're looking off the cliff down into the
Mm.
water, and everybody's jumped off the cliff, and you're like, oh my god, I don't want to jump. But once you jump, it's like, oh, I want to do this again. But as you develop, you get
Yeah.
better at it and all that. So I'm a cliff diver, so I'm really good at it. So that's the whole thing. Is what seems very scary sometimes. We have to take our opportunity. If it doesn't work out, we change our trajectory because our spirit guides and people are never going to lead us wrong. Sometimes they will lead us into a situation that isn't comfortable.
Mhm.
Um, we get upset, but as a shaman, I have to realize that you know everybody I meet is at the time I'm supposed to meet them. Everything that happens is at the time it's supposed to happen. When something is done, it's over. So
Yeah.
that's how you look at it. If you simplify life that way,
Mhm.
um, even if something bad happens or something good happens, there's always a lesson in it. Um,
Yeah.
that's important for you on your own path and your own journey. because as you heal yourself in that journey, you're always healing yourself. As the journey goes on, you get better and better. You might take a few steps back, but once you recognize it, put a name to it and what it is, that trauma, then you're able to go forward again even stronger. But that's how we have to teach people that aren't us, to help them with that on a different level, to help them level up, where you're here to tell them they're here, you're trying to get them here. And then it's this as you help people all the way through life and all that. That's why it's important that when we recognize it in ourselves, we're able to pass it as a gift to other people as you sit with them, help them close the door on the trauma they had with a past loved one. Or whether I go into a house, I help people that are living there over the fear. I help the spirits that are there make the decision that, hey, I am dead. I can move on. I am happier now. And I'm glad that you helped me. So that's what life is. It's simple. Too many people complicate it. So that's why I always tell people, what do you do? They're expecting this long. I just say, I help the living and the dead.
Yeah.
Period.
That fear really does play a big portion, because there are places I could go and I can absolutely clear the place. But if the family that lives there is holding the fear, they're holding all of the things that happened, they can call it right back in.
Yeah.
And so that's a part of it too, is really working with the people, raising their vibration, giving them some skills, some tools to be able to maintain their space after.
Yeah, that's the toughest part, because a lot of that trauma, a lot of that fear is why things are there to begin with. That fear and that trauma, you go back, I'm going to put it this way, when they talk about vampire movies, the vampire can't come in unless you invite it.
That's right.
It's based off of actual psychological paranormal phenomenon or just trauma in general. If you let it come in after you let it go, it'll come back. I always tell people, I have this phrase where I recognize their trauma and I tell them, this is what I need you to do. I need you to take that trauma, you're going to put it on a shelf. It's always going to be there, but it's up to you to let it collect dust and never clean it off.
Right.
But it's always going to be there. It's the same thing people realize as they go through 12 steps as an alcoholic. The alcoholism is the trauma, and you put a name to it. Once you put a name to trauma, you have control over it. It's the same thing being a crisis negotiator. Once I know the name of the person creating the crisis, I have control over it psychologically, just within me personally or with the person I'm dealing with. So when people say in the Alcoholics Anonymous, they start off with, I'm an alcoholic. They put a name to that trauma that they're trying to get rid of. It's always going to be there. They're always going to be known as an alcoholic, but it's a matter of they put that alcoholism on the shelf and let it collect dust. It's going to be there. You can look at it as you're dusting. Just don't dust it. So I know it's simple, but it is a rough way to go. But like I said, when you deal with people like us, you're getting over it. There's a certain person in your life that passed away, that family trauma and all that, and you deal with that, and that gets you further and further away from dusting that trauma again. So that's life in general. I hate to put it simply, but
I have a bit of a different
stuff.
I have a bit of a different approach just because I do the hypnotherapy work and I specialize in trauma. So I tend to not leave it on the shelf. I tend to actively work through it and dismantle it. But you definitely need the right mindset and the right space and the right person to help you with that. And if you don't have that, then I can agree. Stop touching it.
Well, it is in certain situations and all that. You're always going to have that memory, right? It's a matter of dealing with, you want it to go away, but you want to heal it. You're right. You're taking it, you're deconstructing.
We can change the feeling of a memory, though. You won't always have to feel the same about it.
No, but it's always going to be there. It's always a memory. It's a good memory instead of a bad memory. So, but it's still there. So nothing goes away. So it's a matter of how you deal with it as you're on this plane and all that, and how you want to deal with those things and all that. I think it makes us stronger, but we should never forget either. It's like history.
Absolutely.
If we forget history, we're bound to repeat it again. So that's why it's important to go back and deal.
We're right about there, aren't we?
So I'm a
We're right
historian.
about there.
I'm a historian. I'm an empath. I'm a lot of different things, and I think all those things that I've garnered over the years, skill wise, spiritual wise, and all that, I think it's important. There's a lot more work to be done, and I think there's a lot of stuff coming. That a lot of us in the spirit world know something's coming, and we've all been talking about it, and we want to prepare for whatever it is, what kind of spiritual battle it could be, or just
Oh, yeah.
the way the industry is shifting and all that, and we have to be ready for the shift to be able to help people. So,
I don't think I've ever seen as many people doing psychopomp work or finding and helping lost souls or doing spirit releasement as there are right now.
yeah,
And there are more and more people getting called to it every day. And it's because we really are in the thick of it right this moment.
yeah.
It's wild because that wasn't my trajectory initially either. So,
Yeah.
how are you spending your time now for the most part? What kinds of things are you doing and how are you still being of service? Because I have no doubt that you are.
I'm doing shows like this, getting the message out, which I appreciate that you do, Amanda. It's a different look, and that's what I've always wanted. Um, Early on in this, you did get the shows come out and the provoking and things like that. And I think after my mom died in 2012, the reason why I really came back is because I just didn't like the direction it was going. And I wanted people to know there was a different method to it, healing the living and the dead, not to provoke, to be respectful on both sides. But I still do that in a way, but I'm more in teacher mode. I do mentor. My partner and I, with the Shaman and the Showman, we do events where we take people to a haunted location and we teach them the proper way to approach it, not what they see on TV, but just really ask them the questions. Why do you feel this way? Why do you think we do this? And, put the history together. I give them, the ones that really want to reach out. You have different levels of beginners all the way up to really advanced. Why do you feel this way? Why do you feel you need to use this piece of equipment? I just want them to know how the equipment actually works and if it's going to work for that situation, where you're not just buying something just to, to have it. Why it works. I don't use a lot of equipment because a lot of it doesn't work for me. My equipment I use to verify I'm feeling something, and it verifies that I might have an audience and I want to communicate. That's just verification. That's all it is for me. But, doing all that, training people now, doing these events where I have like-minded people like myself that have a message to say, to come and speak to patrons that come to these events, to learn there is a different way, and just to get to see these people that they don't normally may not see, because not all of them are on TV. I just don't think it's a great platform, but I don't think, there's a lot of people even that have a message to say that people could learn from. It's the same thing in the music world. You could go online and see all these great talents online, but none of them have record deals, but they're still incredibly talented. It's the same way with any profession,
And vice versa.
Exactly.
There are many
So,
of them who are out there who don't have talent.
yeah, got that right. But
We're seeing all of the shadow of that come up right now.
yeah, the worst thing I see somebody on the paranormal and they're listed as an actor. So, all right, are
Yeah.
you really in this, or are you acting?
Yeah.
I think we're at that point now where we need to put all that aside. We need to put pettiness aside. We need to put ego aside, because if we don't, the trajectory is not going to go the right way.
Yeah.
But us in the spirit world do know there's always that battle. There's always the battle that doesn't want us to do it, but the battle of good that wants us to do it. Is everybody has that battle on a daily basis, individually, or just as a whole too. So.
Right. Yeah. Goodness.
Yeah.
There's so much to think about. When you're educating people about how to do an investigation, is that in person only? Do you have virtual offerings? I have a lot of mediums who are very interested in branching out into that.
Well, I do the investigations, and there's all kinds of different types of shaman. I do call the four directions if I'm doing a land clearing and all that. I don't use a lot of different things, but I'm a firm believer, and I want people to know, whether you agree or you disagree, I depend on my spirit guides, my ancestors, and all that to lead me. they give me the message. They give me the words to say, so I don't have a ritualistic way of saying things or doing things. It's one thing. It's all about intention, and it's all about your circle around you of what you have. Because I could take, let's say, a book. This is the Ghost Stories of Kinetic. That's my partner's book. It's funny that I grabbed that one. But I could take a book. Somebody could take sage. All right. So if you believe in the sage and you put power to it and intention to it, it'll clear the house. But if I put power and intention into this book and I walk around the house with this book, I'm clearing the house too. Mm-hmm. So it is the intention, and you have to teach the people in that house to have that same intention. So once I put my intention to clear it out, I need to teach them the same intention to clear it out. Because if they don't, again, like we talked about earlier, it'll come back.
Yeah.
So
and to change the life patterns that
exactly.
invited things in.
Exactly. That's exactly what it leads to. Yeah. So there's all those different things. I want people to know you don't have to buy all this, different things unless it helps you pinpoint that intention. Yes, do it. For me, I'm very open. I really take on, who is at the home, what their background is. I'm very esoterically diverse. If somebody in the home is Jewish, I'm going to approach it that way. If somebody's a Christian, whatever, I have to approach that way because that's the intention and the energy they put into the location. That's why it's important to know history, what their background is, what the background of the land was too. Most of our land in the U.S. is Indian land at one point or another, or even further back. Those are the things you have to take into consideration and the energies that you come upon, and that's how you communicate. And a lot of people don't do that. They go in and they bless the house, but they don't bless the land. They don't bless the people that are in the house either. Because sometimes you have to take things off the people in the house, and the house and the land, and just different things like that.
That's right.
Some people just pinpoint in because they saw something on TV, but no, it's a labor of love to help somebody. It doesn't happen in a half an hour. It could take time. Sometimes things are not there really hard, and it could take a day. But sometimes you could keep going back to a location. I have many locations that I still go and visit and try and help. So it's a lifetime. It's a journey. It's always going to be there. You have to keep helping when the help is needed, and it doesn't happen overnight. So but you know who you are. As long as you know who you are, you could help. So,
yeah. You have done investigations all over the place. Some really notable places. We have one in common because at one point I lived in Boston, Mass. So you know which one that is.
Which one? The Lizzie Borden house?
Lizzie Borden house. That was the first popular place I'd been to because I wasn't particularly intrigued with that. But while I lived there, I was really developing my mediumship intentionally, consciously, and on purposely. So I had some wonderful teachers, and I had a roommate who was also a medium, and she kind of said, "Hey, let's go do this together."
Yeah.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have gone. That was my first. But do you have a favorite of all of the places you've been? A favorite investigation that still strikes awe or just awestruck amazingness in you?
It's funny. I don't get awestruck by the places. I get awestruck by the spirits in there.
By the healing that happened. Yeah.
Yeah. The opportunity to be able to speak to a spirit, especially say the Lizzie Borden house, historically great. Really, what gets me at these places, it isn't, I won't go to a place unless there's an event that I was invited to or they needed me there to help them. I don't go and hang out at places just because they're cool. If something's calling me and needs me, then I'll be there. I'm different when it comes to that. Some people love going to these places, but historically, I was attached to it, and there was an event going on that I was invited to, and I wanted to go because there's some like-minded people there that I really respect, and wanted to do some stuff with them. And that was a great event. I've been to a lot of different places, but I think for me, I think it's more the places that I probably never be able to go that pull me. I would love to walk through the White House and all that inside and feel the spirits of that, just for the history.
Yeah.
Just the opportunity to talk to somebody and help somebody heal from history.
Yeah.
It did at Lizzie Borden. I did get into contact with Andrew Borden.
Oh,
I had a friend
okay.
doing the Estes method at the time. She was
Yeah.
doing the Estes method. I was asking the
Could you
questions.
explain that? I know what it is, but my audience probably will not.
Okay. As you can see, I'm wearing headphones right now. So there is a device called a Spirit Box, or the SB7 Spirit Box. It gives off little radio signals, white noise. It's what referred to as a broken radio. Probably who developed it the best was Frank Sumption, because his first box was called the Frank's box, which are worth quite a bit of money if you could find one that he made, but he's passed since. And it's a broken radio. It's just cycling through the radio with white noise. And in theory, the frequency of a spirit is able to communicate through that. So what we do is you plug in the headphones so only you could hear the white noise and all that. And then you start asking questions. And if the person listening is matching up to your questions, then you know we got a conversation going on. A lot of times we'll blindfold just to make sure that you're not reading lips.
Yeah.
So this is going on, and she was picking up, a spirit, and I picked it up as Andrew Borden, and I started having a conversation with him about certain things I thought that he might have done to his daughters.
Yeah.
And he got angry, but I asked it in a way that it wasn't provoking. But he got right in my face, and I could feel the energy right in my face, like almost to the point where you could feel like the cobwebs. And to me, it was like he was spittling on me. You got the little cobwebs coming.
Yeah.
And I had this conversation with him, and my heart rate went up. I started profusely sweating, which I usually do when I'm in spirit. So that way I knew, okay, we're in contact. Let's converse. And once she lost contact, my sweating stopped and the heart rate went right back to normal. So I knew I had this in your face kind of conversation and all that. So
What year did you go in?
it was like 5-6 years ago, I think it was.
So
Yeah.
I went, I was probably there before you. I think
Yeah.
it was closer to 2014, 2015 for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't pick up on him. It was the children in the attic that were very, very strong. And then that bedroom, the master bedroom, the sadness of the woman. I feel like it was possibly the mother. Oh my God. That was really heavy. And then in the basement, I feel like there was a thought form, but it didn't necessarily have an intelligence that I could connect with.
No, you're definitely right. The problem with that place is so many people go in and investigate it.
And stay
And when you
overnight.
do, they stay overnight.
Use Ouija boards.
They put the intention in there, and you get enough people to do certain things, and you create that thought form, that egregore or anything like that. So that's why for me, when I go to these locations, it's too difficult to discern, is this the actual history of the house, or is this what somebody brought in when they investigated? I prefer to investigate a place that's never been investigated before. So that's why when my partner and I, as a shaman and the shaman, do an event, we try to go to places that have never been investigated before, and that way people are getting something firsthand. It's not what somebody left there. Because I tell people all the time, let's say I'm an investigator, I go somewhere and I investigate it 100 times, and then I wait a year, and then I go back, and then I hear a voice, wow, it sounds like so-and-so's voice, or anything like that. There's a possibility that you left enough energy there, your own imprint, even though you're still alive, you could haunt yourself.
That's right.
So,
and we often do.
Yeah. So why a lot of people, why do I hear my voice? And I was here about 10 years ago. So,
if the emotion was strong enough.
Exactly. Because a lot of times it's people have a jump scare and they go, why does it sound like my voice? Oh, 10 years ago, I freaked out. And that's what happens. And you leave it there. You leave that time there, you leave that imprint, and it could still be there, and it reenacts because it recognizes your own energy. It recognizes energy again that you left.
Did you get any intuitive hints on the uncle, Andrew's brother?
There's been talk of that, and I think I really didn't pick up anything on him. A lot of times, because there were so many people on this investigation, I think it clouds sometimes. But when we're able to pinpoint in on the Estes method and everybody was quiet, and I got more used to the energy of everybody that was in our group, I think that put me more in tune. It's very rare for me to be able to pick up if there's a lot of people. That's why I like to, for many, many years, they always tell you, don't do investigations on your own. No, I would do them on my own. I just wanted to tune in and all that. And then I had a partner for a little bit too. That was very helpful. We could play stuff off each other and all. And, getting in touch with that spirit world, you never know what you're going to come in contact with. And that's why somebody like Andrew Borden, I just like sit there and I think to myself, I was talking to somebody from history that people still talk about to this day. And it's very profound, and I think for me, it's very healing too. Whether it doesn't matter that he was in my face and was mad and all that, it was still, I got to converse and I got to give a message to a spirit that's not
through space and time.
Yeah.
Where
else can you do something like that? And that's why I like some of those places, because I already know the history. But even then, a history of somebody's family member that's passed 10 years ago, they never met, and you're able to put together parts of the story that are missing to help somebody. It's the same thing. They're not a famous historical figure, but they're a famous historical figure in that person's life. And that's what they need to be able to, make sense of who they are. It's generational trauma sometimes too. So, what somebody did in the past, and that leads to your family being where they are, and learning that and forgiving that, you're able to break that chain and start a new trajectory for that family generational trauma. So.
And it heals forwards and backwards.
Exactly.
That's a really cool thing.
Yeah.
So for people who are interested in branching out and looking at investigations and doing psychopomp type work, what do you really want to leave with them? Because I can't believe it, but the hour's already gone. It always goes by so fast.
Yeah, it always does. But, my social media stuff, I am the archangel of the paranormal on Instagram and TikTok. I do videos, helpful videos sometimes. I'm kind of not doing anything right now because it is the busy season. I start back up again at the beginning of the year. The Shaman and the Showman, we do a lot of different things, big events, reach out at our www.paracon, which 2 N's.com, or you could email us, paracon at gmail.com.
I'll have all the links in the description and in the show notes
for
you. So anybody listening, you can connect easily.
I try to remember everything and all. But, come to our events. I'm always advertising our events on like Facebook as Thomas Patrick Gormley. Again, the Archangel of the Paranormal on all the other social medias. And I'll be advertising something. I don't know when this is going to air, but October 26th, which is tomorrow, I'm doing a fundraiser where I'll be talking about all my spooky cases from over the last 40 years to help raise money for a good cause. That's usually what I like to do.
Are you recording that? Because people will be hearing it after the fact.
Not recording. I'm actually in person. So, and, but even when they hear this, the place is called Gallery 53. It's www.gallery53.org. I think it's important that even if they don't come to it, this is after the fact, please, you could donate money to help keep the gallery open, because they're, they don't ask for money or anything like that. They don't make money, that aspect, but a lot of it's donation and things like that, nonprofit. So it's important to keep the art world going and all that. I think it's important, just like anything else, especially in the spirit world. And I tell people, even musicians, artists, where does that stuff come from? So is somebody telling a story through you as you paint that picture or write that song? So
and that's why the Akashic records, nothing's original anymore.
Exactly. So
we're
getting it from somewhere, and to be open to it and know why it's coming from somewhere is very profound. But I'm all over the place. Anytime you need me, Archangel of the Paranormal, at gmail.com. You could email me any questions that you have. I'll be more than happy to send you information. The old Q&A. I'm always open to answer any burning questions that you have, and if it helps you heal or put you on the right trajectory, that's what I'm here for.
Oh, that's amazing. If someone wants to mentor with you, what does that look like?
Usually when I mentor people, they'll come on our investigations with us. So just take them to the side. And, it's an exchange of talking to them on a daily basis or anything like that, what's needed, just to put them in the right direction. So again, I do get beginners. I do get very advanced people come on our investigations and all that. And it's just, I'm always there to listen and do that. So it's hard. I don't have a lot of time in the world. I have a normal job and I have the paranormal job. So not that it's a job, it's a love, but I'm constantly doing stuff. And that's why I always tell people if I'm mentoring them, I want them to come along, come to all the events and all that. I'm always there for them to sit. A lot of time I'll have them sit at my table with me just so they could pick up the energy, anything like that. So we're always going at it. And even if I couldn't help you in a certain aspect, I do have a Rolodex of people that will step in and help out too, to give you their side of it too. So you're well-rounded.
That's astounding. Anything else coming up for you, say around November?
So November, we're doing a investigation. It's going to be the 15th and the 16th. It's in Waterbury, Connecticut. It'll be at a Masonic lodge, and it used to be a church. Now it's a Masonic lodge, and nobody's ever investigated there, but there's been a lot of.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, so we'll be bringing in a group. Usually, we try and keep it small, like 20 a group. We do 2 days. So sometimes, you get the first day and the second day and all that. So the different energy of the people that come in, you can get different stuff. So sometimes I encourage people to come both days, just to see the contrast and the difference. So when I'm mentoring people, I usually have them come both days so they could see the differences and the contrast. Also December is a big one. We have our winter psychic fair. That'll be in Bridgeport, Connecticut. We usually have them at breweries, which is a nice big enough brewery to have all of us people. And we have, psychic mediums there, and also vendors, because we like to put the vendors in between the psychics so they're not like picking up on each other.
That helps.
Yeah.
As a reader, that helps immensely.
Yeah. And then we're in planning to do our, we have one location where we're going to do our haunted Christmas. It's come to the point where business-wise we had to find a bigger location. So we're planning on doing that on Friday the 13th of December. And it'll probably be at Transylvania Restaurant in East Haven, Connecticut. It's a Romanian food and all that, and it's got a vampire Dracula theme in it. So it has that ambiance, which my partner does a lot of things there during the month. Like a couple times a month they do monster trivia and they do monster bingo. So it's all built around monsters and all that. We all know Christmas has their monsters too. So we'll be doing all kinds of stuff with that, where it's just a lot of us in the paranormal just get together, be together, an event with music, like Victorian ghost talk, where you tell the ghost stories by the camp or by the fire and all that, how they used to do in Victorian times, just part of Christmas. We might be doing some other stuff, maybe doing some trivia, Christmas-oriented monster trivia. So it's just going to be an awesome night. It's just one of those, all right, spooky season's coming to an end. Let me go hang out with friends that we've just to sit and talk instead of having to work and all that. And it's amazing. And patrons get to be with us and get to see some of the personalities.
And then
that
you actually
enjoyed.
Get to experience their vibe without being like in an actual investigation, because that changes. If someone's empathic, their vibe gonna shift on a location.
They'll all still be doing that here at that Transylvania restaurant. So, but it's just everybody to get together. It's a big thing. It's going to be our first annual one, and we just want everybody to know that there's going to be a safe place for you to have some Christmas fun, and you'll be with like-minded people in a safe place to have fun, especially that time of the year, and be ready for the holidays. So,
yeah. Oh, thank you so much for your time. I know you're a busy man, so I really appreciate you coming on and sharing all of the insights that you
Mhm.
have today. I could listen to you for hours. I'm completely
Thanks.
captivated.
I enjoyed
Yeah.
the questions and all that, and just the flow of energy is always good. Felt very good about it, and I'm very grateful that you had me on and that we get to talk together and to everybody listening.
So, loved ones, soulful seekers, if you are interested in exploring the paranormal, this is your guy. I'm going to send all of his info in the show notes for you so that you can connect. Send him your questions. If you've got questions you want to leave him on the podcast, that's fine too. I will make sure that he gets them. But as always, be happy, be healthy, be well, but most of all, stay inspired. Bye for now. Thank you for joining us on this transformative episode of Trauma and Transcendence. Your stories matter. I would love to hear them and from you. Connect on our website, healingbeyondtrauma.com, or drop me an email at amanda@healingbeyondtrauma.com. Remember, healing is a journey we take together. Until next time, stay connected, stay inspired. This is Amanda, wishing you bright blessings.